General Hospital spoilers for the next 3 weeks, September 8th to September 26th, state that Michael Corinthos will have some control over Willow Tate, while Nathan West and Britt Westbourne drama unfolds. Jason Morgan will also have to make a difficult decision, so expect some intense scenes. The week of September 8th to 12th will see an explosive end to the latest cycle of instability at the Five Poppies Resort. Jason, Britt, Jocelyn, Jax, and S. To get out of Croatia alive, Vaughn and his teammates will need to work together. Fortunately, all 4 characters will live to tell the tale. In the aftermath, Port Charles will see an unexpected reappearance. Jason will supposedly persuade Britt to reveal her resurrection back in PC, leaving Dante Falconeri and Lulu Spencer stunned. Liesl Albrecht should be overjoyed to hear Britt has survived, but she may also be wounded and resentful that she was kept in the dark. There will also be a lot of Jeech drama circling around Jacinda, who may say whatever she wants to the cops depending on who pays her well. Michael intends to use Jacinda as an alibi, but may Nina ruin that plan by paying her more to sabotage him? Whatever the case, Jacinda will have a significant impact on what happens next. During the week of September 15th to 19th, Jocelyn and Vaughn will grow more deeply in love, but they will strive to keep their romance hidden from Brennan. This kind of connection is frowned upon in the WSB, so Vaughn and Jocelyn will have to be discreet. Jason will have to make a difficult decision, because he will be under pressure to remain silent about Jocelyn's WSB gig. Can Jason truly keep something so big from Carly Spencer? And if so, how long will the scheme last? Next, Drew could still be in risk if someone decides to finish what they started. Fans of General Hospital will also be looking forward to Drew's wake-up call, and what he will say to the cops when the time comes. Back with Britt, she will undoubtedly have an awkward but poignant meeting with Rocco Falconeri. Rocco never imagined he'd be able to hang time with Britt and genuinely get to know her, but he may now get the opportunity, much to the dismay of Lulu Spencer and Dante Falconeri. Ryan Pavey will return to the screen by the end of the week of September 22nd to 26th. When Anna realizes Britt and Nathan have returned, she suspects Caesar Faison is involved. Anna will have a new case to handle as a result, but she will not forget about the Drew probe. Chase may let Willow pull the wool over his eyes more and more as the story progresses. Brooke Lynn Quartermain will become agitated with Chase as his search for answers intensifies. Brooke Lynn seemed to have an issue with Chase defending Willow and possibly blaming Michael. Michael, on the other hand, will soon find himself in a favorable situation, potentially giving him complete control over Willow's life. Will Michael have evidence to show Willow is guilty of shooting Drew? Or will this involve baby stalker proof instead? According to General Hospital spoilers, the following 3 weeks will be filled with twists and turns, so stay tuned for updates on the mayhem. CDL will have more amazing General Hospital spoilers, updates, and news to read, so make us your favorite GH hotspot. The General Hospital update for Monday, September 8th, says that Willow Tate and Michael Corinthos will be targeted, while Cody Bell provides Scout Quartermain news. Britt Westbourne will also be concerned, so let's discuss what's coming up on the ABC serial. Jocelyn Jax will attempt to persuade Pascal and anybody else involved in holding her captive, even S. Hello Vaughn. It appears like Jocelyn will remind one of their captors of the WSB's capabilities, and ask if the hostage situation is worth dying for. In the lab, Jason Morgan will promise to help Britt Westbourne escape, but she may counter that it is not that easy. Britt still has medicine doses to worry about, which could complicate her escape. Britt's first concern will be for Jocelyn and Vaughn, as they are the reason she contacted Jason for assistance. Jason will be shocked when he learns about Jocelyn's WSB involvement and the precarious situation she's in. Britt will dread the worst and pressure Jason to act before it's too late, so he'll make some quick decisions. Back in Port Charles, Jack Brennan will continue to make threats against Colette Moreau. But will the mole reveal her secret employer? According to the GH spoilers, Brennan will get a proposal, therefore Colette may try to bargain for her life. Brennan will then yell commands over the phone, concerned that Vaughn and Jocelyn may have died. Molly Lansing Davis will finally call Cody, and most likely discover where Scout has been hiding. Scout enjoys hanging out with the horses in the stables, so Cody may admit she is on the Quartermain property and vow to look out for her until aid arrives. Although Molly and Cody have experienced some tension, this Scout rescue will go a long way toward rekindling their friendship. Since Alexis and Willow will continue to be concerned about Scout's disappearance, they should be relieved when Molly contacts them. Later, Ava Jerome will argue with Christina Corinthos Davis and attempt to put out a fire before it becomes a serious problem. Whether it's captive Rick Lansing or anything relating to Alexis' alibi, Ava will believe they need to address the issue immediately. Could Ava be concerned about the likelihood of cops coming over with a search warrant at some point? Will Ava want to relocate Rick somewhere else? Anna Devane of the PCPD will inform Dante Falconeri and Harrison Chase that Max Scorpio is in charge of the Judge Eva Heron homicide investigation. Anna will be in charge of the investigation into Drew Kane's shooting. Thus Chase will wonder if there is any evidence linking the two incidents. Anna won't know for sure yet, so she'll focus on who shot Drew and how many probable suspects there are. There could be various conflicts of interest in this case, but Chase and Dante will reassure Anna that they can perform their duties effectively. Anna will leave the option open for Dante and Chase to recuse themselves if they get uncomfortable. That being stated, Anna will believe Chase and Dante are in a unique position to provide insight on two crucial persons of interest. Anna will point out that Willow and Michael are at the top of that list, so she will basically ask Chase to investigate his ex-wife while Dante investigates his brother. According to General Hospital spoilers, Michael and Willow will be major investigative targets, so keep an eye out for any clues that link to them. CDL is the place to go for the latest General Hospital spoilers, updates, and news, so check back frequently for new GH information. Nathan's words were still echoing in Britt's head, but the weight of them felt greater than anything she had faced in months. Their relationship had been balancing on a frail thread for weeks, with each of them pushing limits and testing loyalty, and it was now on the point of breaking apart completely. Nathan had learned more than Britt ever intended him to know, and her dread was palpable, despite her best efforts to appear strong. Britt had always prided herself on being strong, even impenetrable, but when it came to Nathan, she felt stripped of her armor. His tone, questions, and the way he looked at her made her know this wasn't simply a passing argument. It was a watershed moment. Nathan didn't completely trust her, and Britt despised the pain that realization caused. She wanted to believe she could repair things with a heartfelt apology or an honest confession, but she understood their troubles were deeper than words. Across town, Michael was battling his own silent struggle, one involving Willow, the woman he loved but who was growing further from him by the day. He had discovered something about her, something she had been keeping hidden, and it was the type of secret that, if discovered by the wrong person, might destroy everything she had worked for. Michael had the leverage, but the idea of utilizing it made him nauseous. He wasn't like Sonny or Carly. Manipulation was not in his nature. However, he couldn't ignore the stakes. Every time he watched Willow smile, laugh, or pretend everything was normal, he felt the nagging weight of the reality. She believed she could hide this from him, but secrets often find their way to the surface in Port Charles. Meanwhile, Jason was trapped in a quandary that tested every instinct he had developed through years of commitment and sacrifice. He stood on the verge of making a decision that would change not only his own destiny, but also the lives of those he cared about the most. The difficulty wasn't that Jason didn't know what needed to be done. It was that no matter which option he chose, someone would be wounded. The weight of it all rested heavily on his chest. Jason had been the one everyone relied on for years, the one who remained cool in the midst of chaos, but this time seemed different. This time the stakes were personal. There was no getting around the repercussions, and Jason had to decide whether protecting one person meant betraying another. Britt's confrontation with Nathan erupted swiftly, with neither of them wanting to back down. She accused him of digging where he had no right, of doubting her when she had given him reasons to believe in her, but Nathan wouldn't have it. His voice was rough and frustrated, and Britt despised how easily he could shake her confidence. She wanted to shout, cry, and confess what she had done, but her pride kept her silent. Nathan was not simply upset. He was hurt. And deep inside, Britt knew she'd crossed a boundary she couldn't reverse. Nathan had always been her anchor, the guy who kept her steady as she spun, but now she could feel that link dissolving thread by thread. Michael's relationship with Willow was growing increasingly strained. She realized something was wrong, felt the weight of his quiet gaze and brief responses, but couldn't bring herself to ask. Willow had her own secrets, and she was afraid that if Michael discovered them all, he would perceive her differently. The truth had a way of changing relationships, and she wasn't sure theirs would make it. What she didn't realize was that Michael already had her truth in his hands. He had undeniable and devastating evidence, but every time he considered approaching her, his heart outweighed his logic. He loved her too much to use her faults, but a part of him couldn't deny the advantage it provided. Jason found himself on the pier late that night, staring out over the dark sea, attempting to quiet the turmoil raging inside his mind. He ran over every possible circumstance, consequence, and ripple effect his decision would have. On one side was loyalty, which he had based his entire life on. On the other was freedom, the opportunity to truly pick himself for once. People regarded Jason as unshakable, yet standing alone, he felt the crushing weight of uncertainty. He thought about Britt, Michael, Willow, Sunny, Carly, and everyone whose life intersected with his own. No matter which road he chose, there would be consequences, and he would be the one holding the match. Meanwhile, Britt sat alone in her apartment, repeating everything Nathan had said. Her hands trembled as she held a glass of wine, attempting to convince herself that she hadn't ruined everything. She despised Nathan's hold on her heart, and she despised the fact that she couldn't simply let go and leave. But this wasn't just about love. It was about trust, and once it was broken, it was nearly hard to repair. The silence in the room felt oppressive, and for the first time in a long time, Britt lacked a strategy. Michael was also restless, pacing the length of his living room as he planned his next move. He wanted to keep Willow safe, but he also needed answers. What was she hiding, and why didn't she trust him enough to come clean? His intuition told him the secret wasn't just about her. It was larger, more dangerous, and connected to someone else totally. If he played this wrong, he may lose her forever. But if he remained silent, someone else could be harmed. That thought troubled him more than anything else. Jason wasn't the kind to confide in others, yet he found himself at Carly's door, believing she was the only one who could help him see clearly. She did not force him to speak. Instead, she waited patiently until he admitted the terrible choice he was facing. Carly listened, her emotions ranging from concern to frustration to peaceful understanding. She informed him that whatever he decided, he had to do it for himself, not out of obligation to others. Jason nodded, but deep inside he knew his heart had already decided. It was his mind that needed convincing. The next day offered no respite. Nathan and Britt avoided each other, overwhelmed by ideas they couldn't express. Michael fought to look Willow in the eyes, while Jason endured the weight of his decision in silence. Port Charles was bustling with its normal turmoil, but for these four, the world had shrunk to a succession of hard choices and hazardous realities. Britt wondered if her relationship had already ended. Michael was afraid that his leverage would destroy the lady he loved. Jason readied himself for the consequences of a decision that may permanently alter alliances and destroy bonds. By evening, all three of their courses appeared to be destined to collide, but none of them were aware of this. Nathan's aggravation would drive him to confront someone he wasn't meant to. Britt's desperation would push her into dangerous ground. Michael's secret would force him into a corner, and Jason's decision would set off consequences that none of them could control. The calm before the storm was fragile, even deceptive, but beneath it, emotions were boiling, alliances were shifting, and trust was being broken in irreversible ways. In Port Charles, nothing remained buried for long, and the truth was always costly. Nathan and Britt would face a test of love and forgiveness. For Michael and Willow, it would be a struggle for honesty and survival. For Jason, it would be a test of who he was and what he was ready to sacrifice. And as the shadows deepened over the city, each of them stood on the verge of making decisions that would change everything. Choices they couldn't undo, no matter how much they wished they could. The air was thick with tension as Willow and Michael strolled gingerly through the city's shadowed streets, their footfall muted by damp cobblestones gleaming in the weak light of streetlights. It was long past midnight, and the world around them appeared to hold its breath, as if aware of the danger that awaited the couple. They weren't just any couple. They were tagged and pursued for reasons they didn't completely understand, though the pieces were beginning to fit into place. Their lives had crumbled during the previous week, ever since they discovered a secret that wasn't meant for them. A secret that powerful individuals would kill to keep hidden. Every peek over their shoulders felt like a brush with death, and every unexpected face was a possible threat. Willow's hand clenched around Michael's as they slipped into a narrow alley, their breathing shallow and their senses acute. The city was a labyrinth, a vast maze of concrete and steel where danger lurked around every corner. Willow's mind raced through the circumstances that had brought them here. It had begun innocently enough, a late-night conversation with a source who claimed to know about corruption at the highest levels of the local government. Michael, a journalist known for discovering embarrassing truths, had been skeptical but fascinated. Willow, his life and work companion, insisted on joining him. She'd always been the watchful one, noticing the angles Michael sometimes overlooked. But neither of them had anticipated the scope of what they'd discover. A vast network of bribes, blackmail and corporate collusion that extended far beyond the city and implicated people whose names were synonymous with power. The source, an anxious man with flashing eyes and shaky hands, handed them a flash drive and vanished into the darkness. "Don't trust anyone," he'd said quietly, barely audible above the diner's neon sign. They hadn't even had time to consider his warning before the first attempt on their lives occurred. As they left the diner, a car careened at them, its headlights blinding and its engine roaring intently. Michael had pushed Willow out of the way barely in time, and the truck had missed them by inches. It was 3 days ago. Since then they've been on the run, moving from one safe house to the next, never staying in one place for long. The flash drive, now concealed in a small metal container tucked under Willow's jacket, was their sole weapon, and their greatest liability. They realized too late that the alley they had fled into was a dead end. Michael grumbled under his breath while scanning the brick walls for an exit. Willow's heart raced as she pressed herself against the cold, moist surface, her gaze drawn to the alley's entrance. The faint sound of footfall echoed in the distance, methodical and leisurely, as if a predator enjoyed the chase. "We can't keep running like this," she said quietly, her voice firm despite the panic gripping her chest. Michael nodded, his jaw tightened. "We need to find Colette," he continued. "She's the only one who can help us right now." Colette's name was well known among the city's underbelly. A fixer, a dealmaker, and a woman who thrived in the gray area between law and chaos. She was noted for her ability to solve difficulties and broker bargains that left everyone content enough to walk away. But her services came at a cost, and not necessarily in cash. Willow and Michael had previously crossed paths with her, while investigating a smaller story about illegal land deals. Colette had served as a source at the time, providing them with just enough information to keep them on the right track without revealing her identity. She was an expert at playing both sides, and they weren't sure if they could trust her. However, trust was a luxury they could not afford right now. Colette was their only chance of getting out of this alive. Finding her was not easy. Colette moved in the shadows, her whereabouts known only to those who knew where to look. They'd spent the last of their money bribing a low-level informant to steer them in her direction. The informant had guided them to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, which reeked of rust and decay. It was the type of site where deals were made and bodies were buried, and Willow felt a shiver down her spine as they approached. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows like vacant eyes peering down at them. Michael held her hand, offering a nonverbal reassurance, but his own anxiety was obvious. They both knew they were walking into the lion's den. The warehouse was a cavernous room, full of shadows and echoes. Crates were placed randomly, their contents long forgotten, and the air smelled of mildew and oil. A single light flickered in the distance, creating lengthy, twisted shadows on the concrete floor. Willow's pulse quickened as they approached it, their strides slow and deliberate. They discovered Colette sitting at a makeshift table, a laptop open in front of her, and her fingers dancing across the keyboard. She didn't glance up as they approached, but a slight smile formed on her lips. "You two have been busy," she observed, her voice silky and full of humor. "You've got half the city following you." Michael didn't waste time on pleasantries. "We need your help," he replied with a tight tone. "We have something they want, and they'll kill us to get it." Colette eventually looked up, her dark eyes filled with curiosity and calculation. She was an attractive woman with sharp features and an aura of effortless control. Her dark hair was pushed back in a tight bun, and she wore a fitted jacket that looked out of place in the grimy warehouse. "And why do you believe I can help?" she asked, reclining back in her chair. "Or that I'd like to?"